Good evening and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Defining Virtuosity. My name is Odin Rathnam and I am professor of violin at Cleveland State University. This evening we're going to work on the Cadenza by Fritz Kreisler for the third movement of Beethoven's Violin Concerto. For the sake of organizing, I'd like to divide it into three sections. We'll first look at the opening chord batteries that show the main theme, sort of the rondo theme. And then in the middle, we have a section full of semiquavers leading up to a climax. We'll practice that separately. And then after the climax, we return to the chords and the entrance of the orchestra, of course, at the end. I'd like to suggest a couple of new things. When practicing something this high energy, I like to take literally almost all of the emotion out of it, and to accomplish the gestures through the stroke vocabulary and the bow distribution, sort of putting our intention in the back of our mind, but making sure that it doesn't manifest as tension. So we can play things softer than normal as long as we're sort of marking out all of the strokes. In the left hand, we're going to observe the rules of a very, very, very soft left hand, first of all, and thumb, okay? And the turning of the hand so that we can drop cleanly between strings, literally on fifths. Towards this end, you could practice as a warm-up in D major, fifths from here, carefully. If you need to. But for the sake of moving straight into the double stops, I want to discuss first what the bow has to do. We start with this main theme played between these two strings. And then we prepare the next collé. The arm, by bending the thumb, pulls the next note. We use a collé here that ends and is coincidental with the dropping of the arm to the D and A plane. And then in. Here we use a collé that ends on the lower two strings. And pull with the arm. Collé, in with the arm, collé, pull, so. And be careful to practice. You vibrate every note. And I'm really trying to relax the arm this way on every new playing so that I don't get the sort of dog peeing on the fire hydrant leg coming up there, which is the result of pronation at the shoulder, a very unhealthy thing for maintaining our arm weight. So when you're crossing, new string height, elbow still under the wrist. Even here, under the wrist. And that it releases inward and doesn't do this on an up bow either. That you release inward, close just at the elbow joint for that. So we put together these salvos, and we add length to them as we go up to create more intensity. Simple, the weakest, so a lot of release. Again, I know this is strange, but when you go to the next down bows, to counteract this notion of being too far out at the beginning, you can watch Josh Bell's lesson with Mr. Galamian about bow angles. It will feel as though you're starting the down bows more in because of our perception when we look from this point of view onto the sounding point. But I would watch the sounding point while you do this. That moment. This moment. Here, it's very important to have a low elbow. Not too high. Because that's what creates a sense of hanging in the string. And once you've done that, you can play very softly. We don't have to go to full power. So, again... For this surprise, a slower bow speed helps. Slow the bow. And then release. Here, hand angle is important, that we have the fifth ready and a straight wrist for all of this. I try to train my own hand to not move for the correct placement of the fifth. And bring up the joints, the shoulder as well. So again. That brings us to the second section of the study. I want to divide this up into the difficulties of the left hand and then the difficulties of the bow separately. I believe that we have sextuplets all the way from here to the reintroduction of the chord batteries at the end, and that the left hand rhythm has to be secure, the articulations of the lifts and drops secure, and the hand positions are good for intonation. So I suggest really with all possible rhythms. short, short, long, short, short, and short, short, long, short, short, long. So we have... the reverse. And back to the 6 for evenness. Then I would practice at Collet, you know, near the balancing point. In the middle of the bow. And so forth. And then I would start thinking back to what I demonstrated in the etude number 34 of Mazas, that we can have strokes that are like this, on, all the way to a collet, sort of a sautier, and brush up in between. So that we become flexible. You can, of course, and should plan out a version that you're going to use interpretively, but practicing it with variations constantly leads to greater flexibility, and it gives you the opportunity to be a little spontaneous and to do things at will. So you could, you know, careful of the arm level there. Here, I like to think in 12-note figures so that we get a line and less difficulty. Going by 6-note figures creates a more broken line, and for me, more student-like, not as artistic. So if you could think of your figures in full ideas. Okay, and here, this is the downbeat, not this. There's a violinism, a bad habit that we hear in some performances, in my opinion, of kicking the B, because it's the first note of the pattern on the E string, and I'm not sure if I agree with the notion of I think I like to feel the second finger as the strong beat, which it is. So playing this next section, we would observe the same things of one of the secrets for this, by the way, is that the motions from the shoulder to the elbow are extremely rounded, no matter what we're doing horizontally here. Sorry, I just got a notification. Pardon me, we'll start over. Sorry about that. again, it's so important that the left hand is ahead of the bow, not behind it, ever. That you practice the left hand rhythm separately, you know. And when you do it separate, as much as possible, that same feeling of the rounded traveling from the two. And one more thing, let the bow work for you. Don't try to force the bounce. Okay, then we now get to this. Again, I think we should do. So we think. And as you go faster, it's very important not to increase your tension levels as you're approaching that climax. You can just broaden the bow. So I practice very carefully. Very important not to bow the E string before the finger is in place for that. It'll keep you calm if you think that way. And then we now reach this high A. Again, I try to bend the thumb, and it'll feel more this way, because if you do this, you'll hear it in the sound immediately. Try to think of a quality stroke rather than too much of an attack. And these next ones, I think in groups of 3. So this, and this is one zip file for my memory. This is another zip file. 3, 3, not 1. And later I won't even think that. I'll think even a longer line from the top down. But this has to be basically one idea. We're leading, we then have a bunch of repeated figures until the theme comes back again here. And we want to create one idea for all of that. This can all be practiced extremely slowly. So scratch early, the new planes. There I have the suspension, that's the strongest. So the first one is still D major and friendly. Slow the bow. Slowest. Then an echo faster. Now intensification. I think it's very important that bum-beady, ba-beady, ba-ba is in the tempo of the movement. Makes it easier for the 4 count and for the bassist to enter, and it excites everyone for a wonderful entrance back in to the coda and conclusion of the concerto. I hope this helped you, and feel free to comment, and I'll see you with the next video. Take care.